back to another episode of SOFREP Radio. This is Rad, your host, and I have the fortunate pleasure to hang out with Lucky and Kevin Maurer of writing the book. Go ahead and tell me the name of the book. It's Damned Lucky, right?
Right.
And
Damn
Kevin,
lucky.
Damn Lucky. Kevin, did I say your last name right?
It's Maurer. It's Bauer with an M, so Maurer. But yeah, looks like Joe Maurer, the former catcher for the Twins.
Maurer, Kevin Maurer, perfect. And then Kevin, you've written books like No Easy Day, Damn Lucky, and how long have you been writing like this for?
I started covering the military in 2003 officially. When I moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I covered Fort Bragg right there. So I got there in January of 2003, and then by March I was in Iraq with the 82nd. So since then I've been sort of chasing these military stories.
Okay, and then you've chased down Lucky. You've done one thing that a Messerschmitt could not do, and that was catch Lucky. So you caught Lucky to tell his story in a book, huh? So Lucky, welcome to SOFREP Radio.
Well, Kevin, why don't you tell how you connected with me?
Kevin may have frozen just a little bit there, Lucky, but I'm sure it was a wonderful, glorious story at the ice cream parlor or something where you guys bumped into each other and he said, "I'm an author. You must be a fighter pilot."
Well, actually, the connection between us was by phone. Out of the blue, Kevin called me and said that he had heard some of my stories and wanted to read my book. And I said, "Well, I don't have a book. Never had a book." And he said, "Well, certainly your stories should be told. And would you be willing to, or would you consider collaborating on a book with me?" And so I said, "Well, I don't know you and you don't know me. And I don't know your writing style. So what have you done?" And he said, "Well, he'd written 10 books and he'd be happy to show me or send me copies and let me see for myself if I thought we were compatible to work together to relate what I thought were stories about one of the most, if not the most notorious group in the 8th Air Force, the Bloody Hundredth, that I accidentally became a part of. And if he thought that was something that he would like to write about and convey it, because I was not a writer. I was able to fairly well maybe speak about my experiences, but writing them was something else for a narrative for people to read and to document, because I was certainly intrigued by the idea of having something in writing that could be referred to historically for future generations, in particular my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, to read about what my experiences were. And unfortunately, just as we reached agreement, COVID happened. And so that meant that we would not be able to interview each other face to face, but would have to do so over the telephone. And this is how we set up a almost daily interview session by phone, which we conducted for a year and a half or almost 2 years, where I sort of regurgitated the experiences that I had in World War II with this unlucky group call it Bloody 100. But I was just damn lucky to have survived and lived to the bright old age of 100.
Yeah, and you're still going. So when is your birthday?
Last month,
Happy birthday.
March the 16th.
March the 16th. That is happy birthday to you. You're welcome. And then Kevin, he was just going over how the phone call popped out of the blue to him, and it was you on the other end saying, "Let me read your book." And he was like, "What book?" And you're like, "Well, let's talk about that."
Yeah, I felt like after I read that Q&A that I had to get deeper into this story, and the fact that there wasn't a book felt like an injustice that we had to kind of solve together. So I was sad about that, and I was lucky. I mean, you don't often get a chance to tell a story like this with a guy like Lucky, who's a great storyteller and really bring it to life. And I think we agreed really quickly that we really wanted to put a human face on really was a battle, that I don't think people really truly understand the human toll that it took on us.
Exactly. And, I do a lot of these interviews, Lucky and Kevin, and I get to talk to a lot of people who've been in combat. And there is a toll. There is a toll that when you come home that sits with you. And I'm just, again, happy that you're able to grip your mind around it, Lucky, and present it in a book with Kevin for us to learn about. And another thing I've learned from this opportunity of interviewing you guys and others like yourselves is I never was a big book reader. I just wasn't I was just like, hey, now I have become that, learning about the stories and then just wanting to learn more about this. So we're definitely going to be talking about Damn Lucky, the book, that you need to go check that out when it drops. And I think it's going to be dropping after in April, right? That's what's happening.
April 19th.
Coming out.
So,
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so let's go straight to the top with the number one seller on every list. It's going to be everywhere. Make sure you pick it up from a local bookstore who takes the risk to buy that book and bring it in and sell it. Okay, that mom and pop out there, I want you to go buy local books. And if you can't get that, then just get it wherever you can. Damn Lucky is the name of that book. And these two have a great story to tell. So Lucky, if you don't mind, would you mind just sharing with me the moment that you enlisted in the United States military and became that lieutenant?
Well, I enlisted after Pearl Harbor. I was in college at the time, and when Pearl Harbor occurred, I didn't even know where Pearl Harbor was or what it was, but I knew that I was highly eligible for military service and I had been in the military in the ROTC in high school and wanted to learn to fly. So I immediately volunteered and as a consequence was allowed to pick the service that I wanted to serve in, the branch of the service. And so I applied as an aviation cadet to go to pilot training. And that was in February of 1942.
Wow. And so you go in 1942, you feel the call to serve. Pearl Harbor has just come under attack from the Japanese. And you're like, I'm going, send me, pick me. Can I ask before that, were you ever in the Boy Scouts?
No, I wasn't a Boy Scout. I had aspired to go to West Point because of my ROTC experience. And I was also, I lived in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which was just 12 miles from cavalry base. The 3rd Cavalry was based at Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. And my dad raised horses. So in the summertime, I would go to civilian military camp, CMTC. And for 2 weeks, I would live on the base and learn to ride Army nags and care for them. And of course, I was impressed with the fact that young lieutenants coming out of West Point, if they could play polo, which was their Sunday afternoon sport, as well as fox hunt, that you could be quite a hero to the local female population. And so that appealed to me. And I thought that I might get an appointment to West Point. But then Pearl Harbor intervened, and that changed things. And of course, rather than going into the cavalry, I preferred to go into the Air Force.
Right. And at the time, it was probably U.S. Army Air Corps. They hadn't separated
That's
to become
correct.
the United States Air Force today.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to wear the browns and the pinks and the greens, as they call them, and, Army all the way. So, as someone who studies that, all the different branches, what was it that made you want to pick wheels up and go drop bombs? I mean, that's the goal. That's the job. That's what you're a part of. So tell me, you go from joining as a young man to now you're in, and you're getting stationed where?
Well, before that, my best friend and I, Sully Sullivan, from high school, wanted to learn to fly. And we thought before Pearl Harbor occurred, we knew that the war was raging in Europe, and that eventually the U.S. would be involved. And as such, we would certainly be prime candidates to serve because of our age. But we both had aspirations of flying fighters and dogfighting in the air as being more glamorous and a better way to serve than in the trenches. So we thought what we would do is apply to the Royal Canadian Air Force and get our flying training there. And then once America got involved, we could transfer to the Air Corps, and we'd be ahead of everybody else. And so we applied, and they welcomed us with both arms. But they said, because you're underage, you have to have parental consent. And so my best friend was an only child. His father had been a World War I veteran and died of mustard gas poisoning when Sully was just a kid, and he never knew his dad. But when he approached his mother and told her what he wanted to do, and she listened very carefully and said, well, Sully, if you really feel that this is what you must do, then you have my blessing. And so I thought I'd get the same result when I went home and approached my parents about it. And when I told my mother that Mrs. Sullivan had agreed to let her only son, and my mother had 3 sons that were all of serviceable age, that she would agree. And she said, well, I hate to see you do this, but if you feel like you must, why, I would agree. But your dad has to agree. And when he came home from the office and he heard what we were about to do, he said, you blithering idiots, you don't have any idea what you're getting into. It's none of your darn business. So you get back in school. And so he refused. And Sully went ahead and went to Canada and was trained and went through the North African campaign flying Spitfires. In the meanwhile, of course, Pearl Harbor occurred, and I joined up and got trained and ended up with a heavy bomber group assigned also to England with the 8th Air Force.
I see, and that's where you came on. Yep, with the 8th Air Force. That's what I was going to piggyback on. So now you're over stationed in Elmendorf or England? Where are you at? Where is it?
I was at Thorpe Abbots. Which is where the Bloody Hundreds was based, and happened to be on a crew that was the first to finish a tour of 25 missions, which in those days, without fighter escort and in the early days of the war over Europe, was virtually impossible to achieve. If you actually lived through your first 4 missions, you were on borrowed time. And to do a tour of 25 was virtually unheard of. But the pilot I was assigned to.
So you got used to getting shot by flak?
Sorry?
You got used to the flak coming up at you and like the flak from all of the anti-aircraft
coming up? You never
up
get used to that because you're so defenseless against it. There's nothing you can do to protect yourself from that. And we were flying unpressurized airplanes at high altitude in broad daylight, mass formation, and it was suicidal. That's what the British called it.
It felt like a big target in the sky. They probably were like, just shoot up there. And you're just like trying to keep going.
How can you miss? Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a whole squadron flying over.
Right. But then on the other hand, we were confronted by the Luftwaffe, which had been fighting for 4 years. And they were professionals. They knew what they were doing.
The Red Baron.
They had fought the Russians on the Eastern Front and gone through the Battle of Britain against the British, and they were very adept at what they were doing. And heck, we were just citizen soldiers. We were just hairy-headed college kids, and we were well over our depths, and we had no idea what we were getting into. If we had, we probably wouldn't have done it. But that was
right.
Those are such the idiosyncrasies of war. But as you probably know only too well, you don't go to war and come back the same. Everybody is transformed by being shot at and being in a situation where you kill or be killed. That does something to you.
Yeah, right. No, and I can imagine the transformation coming home and coming back. So in those days, when the war was over and the newspapers were out, we came charging out into the streets, and there's the big photo of the sailor kissing the nurse on Time magazine, and the ticket parades, and love a soldier, hire a soldier, and then it kind of gets a little forgotten. And so during the Vietnam War, and then even going into like Korea, it still gets forgotten to welcome the boys home and the girls that went and fought. And then you go into Desert Storm, Desert Shield in the 90s, and even though they say it was a 100-hour war, still war, right? Still changes you to today's 20+ year war in Afghanistan, where it's still welcome home, hire a soldier, bring someone, into your, I don't know, your friendship, just be kind to one another, let's not have to go back to war. I guess I hear what you're saying, and you were in the serious game, for the world that we live in today. Like the democracy I sleep comfortably under at night is because dudes like you went and heard the call and stepped up. And I think a little bit probably of that cavalry scout school that you went to seeped into your head before you went in. So you did get that training, kind of like, a team, just being a person on that team, right? But you joined the Air Corps, and then you took some of that cavalry scout mindset with you that was implemented, and you were able to pull through 25 bombing raids.
Damn lucky.
Damn lucky. Wow. So now
you want to look at it philosophically or morally or any other way.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is that if you survive war, which doesn't prove a thing, we've never learned anything from any war, have we? And we're still in war.
Just to go back to war.
When I look back over my 100 years on this planet, I realize that we've been at war my whole life, and we still are.
What's your thoughts of today's world?
It doesn't prove a thing. We don't learn anything from war. There are no victors, there are only victims. And we're all victims of war.
True.
And we still are. And that's a sad commentary on the human condition, that we as individual and human beings can't reach an accommodation of our ideologies without resorting to armed conflict, which doesn't prove a thing. And if you get involved in that, and unfortunately, when you look back on it, wars are started by old men, but they're fought by young men.
Yeah.
And women now.
That's correct.
So the cream,
You're correct.
the
Yeah, right.
cream of the civilization is put on the battlefield just to just to placate some autocrat, some idiot, some egotist who wants to rule the world. And
right.
you get caught up
just
in
not
something
have
like that,
one.
and your country is attacked, then you have to defend yourself. But it's kill or be killed.
Yeah, they could. Like right now, we obviously know that Russia is fighting in Ukraine, and I saw a saying the other day that said if Russia stops the war would be over. But if Ukraine stopped the war, there'd be no more Ukraine. So it's like, what do you say to that? Yeah, just if you believe the country, that's what you're fighting for, right? That's what they're fighting for in Ukraine, is their sovereign nation to be democracy.
Well, they had no choice. They were attacked, unprovoked.
Correct. Living a normal life, and then all of a sudden,
America
just
was attacked.
And
we were unprovoked at Pearl Harbor.
Correct.
But that never
poke the bear.
The excuse for war is another thing. There are no excuses for it. It's just a sad commentary on the human condition. But war is a reality, and it's a maturing process. Boy, I grew up overnight in a heck of a hurry. I was just a hairy-headed college kid going out to war to serve my country because it was the patriotic thing to do. And in a world war, like World War II, the entire population is involved. Even the little kids, all the way up to your grandparents. Everybody was involved, civilians as well as those in service and in uniform. And that's one of the things that I still have yet to do. One of my remaining missions in life is to recognize the civilian population that supported us, that produced all the war materiel, kept the home fires burning, and they've never been thanked. They've never even been recognized. We recognize our losses, our heroes, but what about the hometown heroes? We ought to have a day of recognition for them. That's one of my remaining missions, to see that is a national
we're going to
day
put it
of
out.
recognition.
Well, let's see if anybody listening can help make that happen. A national day of recognition. We have, of course, the 4th of July and, Memorial Day. But you're right. They brought metal. They brought old tires. They brought everything that they could from their own homes to the manufacturing facilities to help make, armor and, supplies and clothing and everybody from, sewing at home, trying to make, quilts and everything to send over to the troops for warmth. The whole war effort was a big deal. Rosie the Riveter, right? She's like taking on, building ships.
But those people ever recognized? Have they ever been thanked? Why not? Isn't that a great oversight? To me, it is. I think
That
it's
is a
a
great
very
oversight.
sad thing that we have never really duly acknowledged the tremendous sacrifices that were made by the civilian population to support us. Otherwise, we'd never have
Correct.
prevailed. We wouldn't have won. We couldn't have won without their
No,
unqualified
support
and unstinting support.
and love. And love, right? Let's not
Yes,
be blind to that, right? There was a love
sure.
for our soldiers that was like,
Who buried the
100%.
body bags?
Still is. That's harsh.
Yeah.
That's a hard world. I mean, I've not dealt with that at my own doorstep, So for those who have, I thank you for sending your only begotten sons and daughters off to fight on the behalf of the flag that sits behind me there on my mantle. It's, that's my father's flag. And that flag is the one true flag that I fly. So I just want to say, thank you as well. And you're well and lucky. I'm 44 years old. I've got a couple more days to catch up to you, but you're welcome from me to you as someone who sits at home and also supports the guys on the front right now. And, to my grandfather, who was a World War II veteran in the Navy, which I didn't understand growing up. I just never took it into, context. I was just little rad riding around, 12 years old on my bicycle, and grandpa was just grandpa. But today, again, after the respect I have, after my own service and my own father and, learning about stories again, I just said, last night, I was thinking, what am I going to talk to Lucky about? And I sat there and I talked to my grandpa. And I was like, what did I not talk to you about? My own grandfather. I was just like, wow, World War II, Navy, his boat was hit. I could have got so many, so thanks for being my pseudo grandpa right now, Lucky. Okay.
You're quite welcome, lad.
Now, Kevin, when you hear these stories coming from Lucky like I am, does it just make you as just emotional and just kind of upset at the situation that occurred, or what were you feeling?
I've always been attracted to the story of the guy who's asked to do the work. And so to me, it was fascinating for me to sit down with Lucky and talk to him because, like I said, he's a great storyteller, but we also get a chance to learn. It's easy to write stories about generals who are moving pieces in big muscle movements. It's harder to be the guy that's got to kick the door in, or the guy that's got to climb into that cockpit knowing he's on borrowed time. And to me, that's what attracted me the most, is to really put a humanity to this. And I think we've taken the World War II veteran and made him, the greatest generation, and we put him a bit on a pedestal. And I think sometimes that takes a little bit of the humanity out of it. And so we're really lucky. And I talked a lot about, let's not gloss this over. Let's not make this like a movie. Let's really show you the toll that it took. And I think that some of the best parts of the book are his relationship with Sully and his story with Sully. But I also think how honest and the courage it took Lucky to talk about the impact the war had. And that end of the book, I think, it was a really catharsis. But also I think it shows that you, as Lucky has said before, you just don't come back the same. And there is an echo and there is a trauma to it that has to be overcome on a daily basis.
It is. And Lucky, can I ask you something? When you got out of the military, was there a support group like the Veterans Administration that you could go and talk to and confide? Was there therapy or anything that you needed to deal with? Obviously putting it on a book kind of gets it off your chest and talking through the stories.
Well, Red, I didn't talk about it or anybody for 50 years. And it wasn't until I finally was invited to address a group about World War II that I began thinking about it and speaking about it, when it occurred to me, and my wife of 71 years, bless her heart,
That's a good
reminded
success.
me that I had an obligation really to tell my stories because of the sacrifices that were made by my generation, so that the freedoms that people, you and I, enjoy today could be realized. If we hadn't done what we did when we did it and how we did it and prevailed, you'd be speaking German or Japanese today, even if
100%. I
you were
agree, and I
here.
say that too. Right. If what I like to say is if our Boy Scouts didn't beat the Germans' Boy Scouts, that's why I kind of bring up Boy Scouts, because you got the Boy Scouts and then like the Hitler Youth, and they were both kind of created same, and then by the time the war kicked off, they were fighting each other. And so really you had these 17-year-old men who were just done creating tents and fires and camping, now fighting each other. And so I like to always say that our Boy Scouts kicked their Boy Scouts' butts. Okay. World War II is proof of that. So that's also kind of like that Cav Scout, where you were going into like, for 2 weeks at a time, you'd go into a unit and they'd be like, oh, hey, what's up, 13-year-old? What you doing palling around here? And you're like, hi, I'm just right here. How do I pack my ruck? How do I put my belt on like you guys? How do I start walking and talking? And so I think that what I'm getting at is today's generation and tomorrow's generation could use a little baseball, a little sportsmanship, a little, team effort outside of, I get that the videos are here and the Xboxes and the video games, but I think that maybe some outside time in a team sport, football, lacrosse, hockey, skateboarding, whatever it is, to just get them ready and a little, keep them tough. Because like you said, you raised horses. Okay. That's a tough job. You're hardened racing horses.
Yep.
Well,
there certainly are other pursuits than armed conflict that are far more productive, yes, far more rewarding, and certainly we ought to be engaged in and direct our energies toward, rather than this useless bit of devastating countries and killing people. That's amazing. No-sum result.
Now, is there talks of this story turning into something more? Damn Lucky going on to do anything else? Is there anything that you might have to say about it, Kevin? Is it just going to stay into a novel form?
As of now, it's a book. It dovetails really well with Tom Hanks and Spielberg's upcoming series that they did on the 100th Bomb Group, Masters of the Air. And that'll be out, I think, a year or two from now. And I do believe that the mission that we highlight, the October 8th, 1943 mission over Bremen, is part of that series. And it wouldn't surprise me if you get a chance to see a lucky Luckadoo in that series, which I think will be very exciting. But other than that, not at this point. But because really all our effort was to create the book that we're gonna have everybody in their hands. Hopefully, this Tuesday coming up, and give people a chance to really kind of walk in Lucky's shoes and go with him on some of these missions and really understand sort of the sacrifice that he and his squadron mates made on a daily basis.
Right, because Lucky, I've seen some movies. I don't know if it's a movie which one it is, but they would talk about the flak that would come up and just explode all around them, and maybe it was a documentary. And they talked about the golden BB, right? Like where there's a golden flash. Was that something that you guys talked about within your 25 runs? Within the squadron, was there a golden BB conversation? Like, hey, Bill, don't watch out for the golden BB today. Is that how it kind of went down, or what?
Not really. We were so focused and bent on worrying about where the next target was going to be or what it was going to be, whether it would be the Big B, Berlin, in broad daylight, or whether it would be the sub-pens in Saint Nazaire, or the ME 109 factories, or what it would be that when during our time off, between missions, we seldom ever compared notes as to what it was like, because if you were on the mission, you knew what it was like. And
Right.
and what had happened to you did not perhaps happen to the guy next to you or on your wing or flying in the wave behind you. That varied so widely just within one mission that um, uh, we didn't talk about it. We lived it. And
Right.
the nightmares that resulted, of course, were a personal thing, as an individual thing. Um, as Kevin has referred to, psyching yourself up to get back in that airplane again the next day was a horrific responsibility. And it was something that was only you could do. And you had to do it because that's what you were ordered to do. But some guys couldn't do it. Some guys got to the point where they said, hey, they're out to kill me. I ain't doing that no more.
Yeah.
You can have my wings. You can send me to the infantry or do whatever you have to do. But we had some guys that just flat quit. And you couldn't allow those to remain around because they would demoralize the rest of the outfit. So you had to remove them from the scene immediately. The British called that
Kind of only human,
lack of moral fiber, and they punished them.
Lack of moral fiber.
But we called it flak happy.
Well, yeah, and they would rather be punished. They'd probably be, yeah,
we
right.
Called
Flak,
it combat fatigue, and we had a different name.
So they were drunk off.
It's all the same thing.
Yeah,
but
it's just too much of it. Just they
couldn't cope with it, and it overwhelmed them, and they threw in the towel.
Yeah. Right. Because the human mental psyche was broken.
Mm-hmm.
These are men that you had went through training with probably and had flown missions with who said, I've had enough, and just hit the wall. Yep. Oh, wow. So, wow, you're amazing, Lucky. Damn lucky is what it is. Okay? Because I just mean really.
Bottom line. But I had a guardian angel that was sitting on my shoulder, or I wouldn't be here talking with you.
Yeah, because 71 years later, she's still around, or is your wife passed?
Yes.
Oh.
5 years ago.
Well, she's in good company. She's in good company, sir.
71
I
years.
assure you.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was the greatest thing that happened
to
me. She was the luckiest thing that happened to me.
Yes, I love the 71 years. I've been with my wife for 22. So I just look to you and I want to accomplish that. Okay. That's my goal. I promise. Everything in this life I do is to chase that goal right there, boss. I mean it. Okay. I'll be nice. I'll be nice to her. Jan, I love you. Well, Kevin.
Well, that's the singular advice that I can perhaps impart to younger generations is live every day to your fullest. It may be your last.
That's awesome. Okay, perfect. So look, I'm not going to take any more of your time. I know you're super busy. I know you've got other things to talk about and other people on your book tour. So I'm really, truly grateful. I really mean it with the most positive, stoked vibes I can send to you, Lucky. And Kevin, no easy day. Damn lucky. Kevin, it's really, I know who you are. You're awesome. And you just keep doing what you're doing with writing. And we're going to put in on SOFREP.com, we'll put in there, all of the links to hit up where they can find the book and buy it. And make sure you leave a review about the book when you do buy it, right? Leave a review. Say, hey, there should be a comma here. There's always should be a comma somewhere.
Yeah. Well, look, definitely leave a review. Definitely let us know what you think. But also, don't forget, every time you buy a book here, it gets just one step closer to getting that memorial that Lucky's talking about. The proceeds of the book, the majority of them are going back to the 100th Bomb Group Foundation, so that Lucky can complete this last mission. So, if you're buying the book, hopefully you're going to get a compelling and amazing story. You're going to get a chance to go to war with a guy like Luckadoo, who's going to tell you exactly what it means to, how and what that toll is. But I think you're also contributing to building a monument that I think Lucky is articulated very well in this, that desperately needs to be built. And what we did as a nation to win World War II is as important as what Lucky did. And I think looking into the future, people say we'll never be united again. We got too many differences. Well, we've done it once, and we could do it again. And I think Lucky personifies that. And I think his desire for this final mission is a worthy goal. So go get the book, enjoy it, leave us a note, and let us know.
Completely well said, Kevin. Lucky, you're the conduit of peace right now. Okay, we're gonna try. Hopefully, this goes everywhere, and people hear these words of just, go home and stop fighting each other.
Thank you, Rad. It's been nice being with you.
You're very welcome, Lucky. Sure. Thanks for being in my life, Grandpa. I appreciate it. And Kevin, again, thank you so much. And
easy day, man. Thanks for having us.
Yes. And yeah, you're very welcome. All right, gentlemen, have a nice day.